one thing we like to do is just be honest with like the potential downside and the potential upside. The deal with Diego, it was pretty easy. Now the Garfield deal was risky. I won't lie. There was some downside there and there was some risk, and we were completely transparent with everybody on that. But I think that's a really big part of when you're asking for money, especially a lot of money, just to be completely transparent. And then even Diego, I was concerned when Diego gave me the money. It was a 60-day term at first. I was afraid that with the holidays and potential another funding of PPP that we might get pushed. So I let Diego know that. He gave me an extra 30 days just in case. Lily?
Yeah, you were making my money work, so I was happy. I was like, if it would have taken you more, I'd be like, sure.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, was any cost for Diego to be the first or second lien? It's something that how you structure, or what was your strategy, Leo, to know, okay, who's gonna be first and second? Of course, I know the basics, but your mentality, if you can share about that.
Yeah. So for Diego was bringing the most. Diego was bringing 50,000. And so he was bringing the most, and he's the first guy I went to. So that was pretty much it for me. It's like, hey, he's bringing 50 grand. He gets to carry the lien. For my buddy who brought 20,000, I didn't even offer him that. Him and I are like, brother, he knows I'm good for it. I was like, hey, can you give me 20 grand for 60 days? And he was like, cool. I think if it would have been somebody I didn't know, I think it would have been a little bit more challenging. I may have went back to Diego and be like, hey, can you come up with 70 somehow rather than having two people on the lien and getting into that. But in this scenario, Diego was given 50 grand. He was the first guy, so I gave him that position.
Thank you.
Can I continue with Lily's question? Is exactly as you said, how do you present that when you don't have experience? And when I say experience, it's like multiple properties. Like I can't say, oh, I'm a real estate investor. I just have 2 properties. I feel that my question is how you present that to someone who knows that person has the money, but they're not gonna believe you because of the risk. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes, dude, let me be honest with you, be very clear. I didn't have a ton of experience up to this point. I think for me, like there was a few pieces. Like number one, I understand how it all works. I haven't done 100 deals, but I've done a few. And I think for me, it was the way I presented it to Diego. I gave Diego what they were asking, the rehab budget, and then I had a CMA from my realtor that showed it was upwards of it was 133,000, and it had just appraised. The house had just appraised for 133,000 as is, but it had fallen out of contract.
Without the roof.
Without the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was really a slam dunk deal. And I put it in an email I was like, hey, it's 100 grand. It needs 4,000 rehab. It's getting a new roof. It just appraised at 133. And here's the CMA of every house in this area for the last 60 days it sold. And I think painting that picture was like, all right, there's not a whole lot of risk there. So I hope that answers your question. And Sebastian, what I would say, man, is like, don't be scared. If you would have told me, 2 years ago, I'd be using private money today, I'd have said you're crazy. I had so many limiting beliefs, but I think that as you educate yourself, this group, and as you analyze more deals, I think you get more confident. And when you find a really home run deal, people are going to give you the money. Like that's what I found in both of these scenarios. I'd never done private money, but they are both really good deals. And if there's a good deal, Diego said he wanted a return on his money and it was secure. So that's the advice I would give.
Yeah, 100%, Leo. And the main thing too, like, and you can see it from my perspective, right? Even though Leo, of course, he doesn't have that much experience, I know that he knew what he was doing. Number one, I get the comps from his agent that definitely knows what they're doing. And then he had pulled the trigger already on some property. So there was a bit of experience, but also this deal, like the appraisal was already done. So it's sort of like I'm going to put first lien $50,000 on a property that's worth 130 for freaking $50. I mean, for 50,000. Sure. Like my back end was really safe. Right. So it's not like every deal is going to be like this that I do with Leo. There might be a little bit more risk and stuff like that, but 100%, at least for this first one, it definitely worked out. And I had the confidence that he wasn't doing what he was doing to also for the Franklin deal, right? Because that one was a lot more. This one was, you're gonna get your money back in 60 days. Like we already know this, and we're not even gonna put it on the market. Like it's literally just a cash out refi. So for me, it's sort of like they're just holding my money there. It wasn't much of a risk. So this is what I'm telling you guys from the investor perspective, from the hard money lender side. This is what was going on through my head.
Yeah, and to add one more thing to that, Sebastian, is I had called the one thing I did. I almost forgot an important nugget here. I had called a ton of lenders to ensure that they would cash out refi me within 60 days. I hammered that with everybody I called. My initial lender that was going to refi me, I called them one more time and asked him. He said, "Oh, no, I'll only do you 80% of purchase." And if I wouldn't have made that extra call, I wouldn't have been able to cover everybody. And so I said, okay, that's not going to work. So I just kept calling banks, and I got a hold of a commercial lender, and I asked him 3 times, "You're telling me you will refinance me within 60 days? He goes, "No doubt." Send him an email, had it in writing. That way, if I felt good about it, I could go to bed at night knowing that Diego would get his money back on time. That was a big one as well.
I have a question.
Yeah, Josh.
Whenever you were structuring, asking Diego for the money, and Diego, you could also chime in on this, obviously. When you told him, "Hey, I want to borrow $50,000," and you tell him about the risks that are involved, are you reassuring them they're going to get the return no matter what? Or if for some reason, let's say everything goes bad, do they lose their money, or are you still one of those people that will still give him his return and his money back? Or how do you structure that? How do you go about that?
Yeah, great question. So if everything went south and for whatever reason I couldn't pay, theoretically Diego gets the house for $50,000. Diego gets the house for $50,000, and it's $133,000 asset. For me, I would never let that happen. I'd cash out my 401k and sell my belongings to make sure Diego was paid back, or whoever was paid back in that instance. But like I said, in this instance, Diego had, he had the collateral. And I mean, for him, it would have been a killer deal. It would have sucked, but he would have got a house for $50,000 that's worth $133,000. He could have turned around and sold and made, 70, 80 grand on.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, Leo. When you see these houses on MLS, do you offer the price that's on the MLS, and do you negotiate prices like, "Hey, this needs to get fixed," or you just offer what's in the MLS and that's it?
Yeah. So what we do, man, is on both of these, and really everything we're doing today, I made 3 offers last week. I mean, we're coming in, 70% asking, usually 80%. Okay. So in this instance, they wanted 125. I don't know what the math on is. We offered 100. And I was like, there's no way they're going to take it.
What about to negotiate closing costs? I think I asked you that yesterday when we were on our pod, because closing costs suck.
Yeah. So on both of these, we didn't negotiate the closing cost. I've only had the seller pay closing costs one time, and it's on this house that I'm living in today. There was a bunch of equity built into it. It was a really good deal, and we did it that way. But predominantly what we're doing is we're just going in really low. And I used to be scared. I think Rosa knows, my fiance, and Diego as well. I used to be really scared of making lowball offers. I wouldn't do it. And she stretched me and nope, we're not offering 110. We're offering 100. And that's worked well for me. So I think the biggest thing is just not being scared to go low. You're going to get turned away a lot, but if you get one that's a yes, I'll share the numbers on this one. Dude, they can be grand slams.
So is 70% like the standard? Like you want to offer 70% of the asking price?
So what I go for is where we're starting today is 80%, but then we're counting in whatever it's going to cost to renovate. So we went and looked at a house on Sunday, and they wanted 130, and I think 80% of that's, I don't know, 105 or something like that. But it needed like 50 grand in rehab. So I just baked that cost in there, and I think we offered 91,250. So what we do is the way we're off making deals today or making offers is like being all in with rehab costs 80% loan to value, because that's what our bank will refinance us out at.
And now for the houses that you don't see, because I'm looking out of state, for example, so it's a house I'm not going to see. How do you know how much you're going to need to fix it?
So what we do, and there's people like Phil on the call that have a lot more extensive experience in rehabs than I do. But what I always do is like, all right, I know how much it's going to cost to paint a house. So like I always bake that in. It's going to cost me $2,200 to paint a house, depending on size. And then we always do floors. We haven't bought a house that we haven't done floors on. So I just take the square footage times 4, because I'm going to pay $2 a square foot for material and $2 a square foot for labor. And so I'm always going to do paint and floors. That gives me a baseline. And then whatever other stuff that may come a part of that, like we tack that on.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Sebastian?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, cool. Your hand.
Do you put an inspection contingency with your offer?
Yep. Yeah. So every house we do an inspection contingency, just if for whatever reason there's like a foundation issue or something that we didn't know about, or like if there's a plumbing issue we weren't prepared for, we make sure we have an out, no matter what.